Yo, what's up everyone? Today we'll be looking at COMET AYLA. Now this is not a new archetype by any means. If you have been paying attention on Netrunner DB, you'll know that there are tons of lists out there for you to peruse. So I'll leave it to you in your free time to go look through these lists because they have excellent write-ups that will help you acquaint yourself with the list. I would actually recommend you to look at these write-ups before continuing on with this video so you get a better idea of how this deck works. I'll just quickly summarize. It's basically a deck that uses COMET to grant you 5 click turns every turn instead of 4 clicks because COMET compresses 2 events to be played in one action, thereby saving you a click. I'm just going to quickly gloss over the changes that I've made compared to some of the other lists that you see out there. Firstly, I'm using some influence on legwork. Now, this is because I do appreciate having early HQ pressure. If you get a legwork off early, chances are you'll get a good number of points, and that will set you up very nicely for a notoriety endgame. Modded plus Lady is my barrier breaker of choice as opposed to Inti or Lamb. This is because Lady is a super efficient breaker. Its only downside is that it has limited number of tokens. With Modded, you can get in your Lady for almost free, and it's a very suitable way of refreshing your Lady. In conjunction with, having 2 copies of Lady plus the fact that you're running Levy AR Lab Access means that you will probably have more than enough barrier breaking tokens to last you the entire game. And even against a barrier heavy deck, you do have Ngolo to convert barriers into code gates. So I think this is a suitable breaker suite and is more efficient than Inti or Lamb. Right, finally we are using Oracle May as a persistent way of getting our backbone engine going, cards and money. The reason is most of our deck is comprises of events, so blind naming event on Oracle May usually turns out well for us. It's also a very good way to spend our remaining clicks on the turn. Typically in a single turn you will play 2 events, perhaps draw a bit, perhaps run, but you usually have some leftover clicks, and instead of clicking for credits or cards, Oracle May is just so much more efficient. Right, so that's about it. Let's hop straight into the game. Alright, today we are up against Sports Metal. Now I usually pause the video here and ask y'all to pick the NVRAM cards, but well, this is one of the most disgusting NVRAMs I've ever seen. This would make for a pretty okay opening hand, but as an NVRAM, this is terrible. So just as, for those of you who are not familiar with this sort of deck, what you're really looking for in your NVRAM are non-events. So COMET is probably the best card you can see in your NVRAM because it guarantees that you find it turn 1. Other good cards include SMC, that means you can liberate it off if you have a stim hack in your hand, and it can stay on your NVRAM if you draw into your breakers anyway. Breakers are also fine on NVRAM, although that means they cannot be accessed by SMC. Your resources are really good, Beth, Oracle May, these are cards you want to see on NVRAM. All the above are cards you don't want to see on the NVRAM. Dirty Laundry, Diesel, these are terrible. These are cards that you want to draw into naturally as you play your card draw cards. Clicking them off NVRAM is super inefficient. Right? So I'm basically forced to take an NVRAM that has a couple of multi-access cards, a Modded and a Diesel. It's just really bad. But to make up for that, I get a pretty blessed opening hand. It has basically every single card that I want to see in the early game. A turn 1 COMET is amazing, and Ngolo means that I can break through any single ice server as long as I have enough money. However, I'm not going to go to do the opening where I drop the COMET down straight away because I want to contest my opponent's Rashida here. Unfortunately, when attempting to contest it, they do res the one ice I did not want to see, which is Gatekeeper, so that allows them to draw a bunch of cards and put a Project Vitruvius back into the deck. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is because they did not start with a hedge fund themselves, it means that they went down to 2 credits to do this. So there's this very narrow window of 2 clicks remaining for me, where my opponent's on 2 credits and they have unrest ice on R&D. This means that R&D is free for my pickings, and I will take advantage of that. I know I have a Maker's Eye on my NVRAM, so given that I have the money to do so, I'm going to liberate a Maker's Eye and go straight for the Maker's Eye. They really can't rest anything of value on R&D short of a vanilla, which I'm not really expecting this deck to run. So we're gonna see 3 cards for free. So this is my consolation prize for letting Gatekeeper fire. While, they get to shape up their hand and they get to fire off this Rashida in the remote. At least I get a triple access here, seeing Surveyor. Okay, so we know our opponent is using Surveyor as the restricted card. This is probably a Glacial Sports Metal deck. We see Project Vitruvius, that's a steal. My opponent takes 2 credits here because they're poor, and the last card is Hedge Fund. Okay, good to know that those cards are coming up. And that's our turn. We pass it over as they show it is indeed the Rashida. And they're going to play a bunch of money cards. So now they're rich. So that was where the window quickly dissipated. When I did the Maker's Eye, they were only on 2 credits. Now they are on 15. There's no way I can run R&D anymore. So capitalizing on every single stealing window rather that your opponent gives you is absolutely vital. Now that we are done with stealing windows, let's set up. We need to get the Comet down, and we have a modder in our NVRAM to do that. So we play Gamble, we mod in the Comet. Very simple turn here. Next turn onwards, we'll get to play 2 events in the span of 1 click, which is really nice. I'll immediately be doing that with the build script in my hand. But first, I'm going to liberate the Dirty Laundry here. Now, this is something you usually don't do. Dirty Laundry it really is inefficient to get Dirty Laundry from NVRAM. If you think about it, Dirty Laundry just gives me 3 credits. But it cost me 2 clicks, 1 to get off the NVRAM and 1 to actually play it. 2 clicks for 3 credits is pretty bad. The reason I'm taking it off NVRAM is because there are no other good events in my hand. So if I play the build script here and I don't draw into other good economy or draw events, I still want to have something to use my Comet ability on. So, worst case, I'm going to build script into Dirty Laundry here. Let's see, build script, indeed, I was forced to Dirty Laundry here because the build script drew me into 2, unplayable cards. Nanotech is not an event, and Notoriety is not an event I can play. Obviously, I'm not going to stim hack here without any breakers out, nor am I going to play Maker's Eye blind into R&D. So this is why liberating Dirty Laundry off NVRAM made a lot of sense. So we are going to get some money here. Now we are fairly rich, but we need to start dropping our breakers. And that's a bit of a problem. This deck only runs 3 copies of modded, but there are so many cards I want to mod in. I already spent 1 modded on the Comet, but I still want to mod in the Ngolo, the Nanotech from my hand. Drawing breakers is both a curse and a blessing. It's a blessing if you have moddeds, and it's a curse if you're stuck with stim hacks instead. You wish that they were in your deck so you can use SMC stim hack to get them out anyway. Alright, so now we are going to drop Ngolo here. And we are going to double event, once again, build script into Dirty Laundry. But now I'm thinking here, do I want to do something interesting with my turn? Can I Maker's Eye instead? Interesting. Yeah, so I'm considering a Maker's Eye here and I eventually go for it. I was just basically busy doing the calculations for various ice that Sports Metal can throw at me. It turns out with 7 credits you can get through most things. Assuming everything is 6 strength or less, it costs 2 to convert it to a Code Gate, 2 to pump Ngolo to 6 strength, and 3 credits to break a 3 subroutine ice. Most ice are 3 subs or less. So with 7 credits I can guarantee that I can get past almost every ice that my opponent could possibly throw at me. So this was why I decided to go for the Maker's Eye here. My opponent shows an Architect, and I had to pay 6 of the 7 credits that I budgeted, which is fine. We are going to see another 3 cards, Ginger Grid, Surveyor, and Corporate Sales Team, putting us at 4 points. So the Maker's Eye here was very important because our opponent was starting to get out of hand with the Ginger into AYLA Salvatore. You notice that they use AYLA Salvatore to install an ice instead of an item in the remote, say an asset or an agenda. This indicates that they did not actually have any agendas in their HQ, otherwise they would certainly have jammed it in server 1. Because of this, we could be fairly certain that there are no agendas in hand, so being able to play a Maker's Eye there was huge as it allowed us to deny that sales team, which they otherwise would have scored as soon as they drew it. Unfortunately, we hope that we don't get the R&D lock. Maker's Eye usually locks R&D, but because they get the Sports Metal trigger when we stole the sales team, they drew the 2 cards, the Surveyor and the Ginger Grid, I believe. yeah, when we stole the sales team. So the next card of R&D is going to be an unknown. It could very well be an agenda. Not much we can do about that. We pass our turn and we'll have to spend the entirety of next turn clicking for credits. Except that we don't. We click for cards instead, because clicking for cards is almost always more efficient than clicking for credits. Our deck has a lot of money events, so clicking for credits is usually not a good idea. We build script into Dirty Laundry for the third time, and then we play an SMC here. Now, SMC at this stage is kind of useless given that we drew all our breakers, but there's still one copy of Cerberus Lady in our deck. So here's where fun things start to happen. I'm going to play the Stim Hack pretty soon, right? And if my opponent chooses not to rest the ice on whichever server I'm running and I have remaining Stim Hack credits, I'll use that to bring out the lady using SMC. That will save me the 4 credits that it would otherwise cost me to install the lady from my hand. We have 2 copies of lady in our deck. So we draw a bunch. We see a second Stim Hack, which is nice. So we basically pad our hand with cards before we start stimming into a certain server. We only run 1 nanotech though, so that's a big worry. I don't want the Stim Hack to hit my nanotech, so we play the nanotech before Stim Hacking to R&D. I could have chosen to Stim Hack into server 1 instead, but given that the card is unadvanced, I think I can leave it there for some time. And besides, R&D seems like a very good server to target now because the Architect is on 3 strength and my nanotech is also on 3 strength. So I know it will only cost me 2 credits to break the Architect. I don't know what the Outer Ice is, but it turns out it's a Surveyor that's just out of range of my strength for nanotech. So unfortunately, it's going to cost me most of my Stim Hack credits to break. I have 2 remaining Stim Hack credits here, not enough to bring out the lady. I'm just shy, 1 credit short of bringing out the lady. So yeah, we'll just head into the server and see a card. NGO Front, not gonna let them have that money card, it goes in the bin. Pass the turnover, Stim Hack brain damage hit my other Stim Hack, which was really annoying. Right, we continue drawing, we don't see any money. There are 3 process automations in my deck and a couple more show gambles missing in action. I don't see them. This is a problem. We keep drawing for them, we don't find them, but we find a Deuce's Wild, which allows us to draw into process automation. But since we are out of clicks, we are gonna mod in our lady instead, trashing the SMC. We also ditch our duplicate copy of Notoriety here. Having 2 copies of Notoriety is very useful. This means that if we steal a 1 pointer from here, say a Hyperloop extension, we'll be on 5 points, and the remaining 2 notorieties can push us up to 7 points. And we can definitely play 2 notoriety in a single turn between the click compressing ability of Comet and the extra click granted by Beth if our opponent is rich enough. We typically do have the clicks in a turn to play 2 notorieties. So that is what I'm aiming for here, but I decided to just ditch one of the notorieties because the other cards in my hand were too important. I could potentially ditch Levy, but I'd rather save it because I'd rather use same old thing on some other event. And besides, you never know when your opponent's running Arc Lockdown. So we're gonna pass the turnover as they reveal that the card in their remote seems like an agenda. So this was a big thing that I missed. I missed the fact that my opponent jammed the card in the remote and then single advanced it the next turn. Usually, if you're trying to bluff an NGO front, you would install advance it in the span of the same turn because you want to have that money available and to threaten your opponent. So this was a big telltale sign that the card in the remote was actually an agenda, and I really should have gone for it. Even though I don't really have the money to contest Surveyors, I should have same old Stim hacked here, risking the levy, knowing that if I do steal an agenda off this remote run, Notoriety will probably win me the game. So that was a very big oversight. Instead, I played the process automation, which only drew 1 card, and that card happened to not be an event that I could play Comet into. So I'm losing Comet value right there. Then I decided to go for more value by playing Oracle May and naming event. And well, we all can probably guess what's gonna happen next. Yep, we milled an SMC off Oracle May. It's bloody annoying when that happens. Not only do we miss out on the 2 credits, it is just not fun. So yeah, we let the remote enforcement get away, and this is where things start going south for us. So that was a very big mistake. Had I Stim hacked into that remote, that would have been a very good play. Same old Stim hack, of course, allowing us to get there. I could have drawn a couple of cards before same old stim hacking to reduce the chance of stim hack hitting my levy in my hand. But now, now there's not much we can do. We are just going to draw the remaining cards in our deck and attempt to position ourselves in for a levy. We play Process Automation into Deuce's Wild. So the Deuce's Wild here was actually a scouting attempt. Don't forget, this is still my first click. I played Process Automation into Deuce's Wild via Comet. And Deuce's Wild, I used the run ability and exposed the R&D ice. I wanted to see if it was challenging to get into R&D. Annoyingly, our opponent put a second Surveyor on R&D. So it costs us 12 credits to break into R&D, which is a bit too much for us to afford. I take the 3 credits here off Deuce's Wild, and that puts us at 12. But that's not enough. If we want to fire the Notoriety here, we need more than 12 credits, because Notoriety costs 1 credit. In addition, I would much rather make a Maker's Eye run here than to do a single access run. So, yeah, Maker's Eye costing 2 credits is actually a big problem. We are not that rich enough to pay for the Maker's Eye into Notoriety. Having already committed Deuce's Wild into Archives, however, I really wanted to get the Notoriety through. And I decided that, yeah, 12 credits was just not enough to make the R&D play. Yeah, as I said, it costs exactly 12 credits to break all the ice on R&D, and we don't have enough to play Maker's Eye into R&D at this point. So I need to get more money, so I'm going to Oracle May here. Thankfully, this one didn't miss. We got a Process Automation. So this puts us at 16. This positions us very well for a Notoriety turn next turn. We'll note that if Maker's Eye hits a 2-point agenda, if any of the top 3 cards of R&D is an agenda, and we follow through with the Notoriety, we simply win. All we need is 3 agenda points, 2 off the top of R&D and 1 from the Notoriety, and we've got this. So that's what I'm aiming for. Unfortunately, our opponent races up to match point alongside us. Once again, failing to check the remote meant that my opponent got yet another agenda through. They do give us a Beth trigger, however. We draw an extra card and it's a Deuce's Wild. Deuce's Wild is super useful as it allows us to compress running and taking money in the same click. Now we Maker's Eye into R&D now that we can afford it, and we're going to see 3 cards which will inform us of what we're going to spend our remaining clicks on. We are going to see Rashida Jahim. At this point, we're not going to bother trashing the assets because, firstly, we want R&D to be kind of locked. We rather them draw assets than to draw into agendas that win them the game. And yeah, the more important thing is I can't really afford to trash those assets now. Even though they're only 1 to trash, I need to have enough money at the end of my this Maker's Eye run to play the Deuce's Wild in my hand. So even though I see an NGO front there as well, I can't trash it. Now sadly, the Maker's Eye whiffed. I was really hoping to see a 2-pointer there, but failing to do so meant that I wasn't going to win this turn. I comment off Deuce's Wild, taking money and making a run on Archives here. So this is a successful run on R&D followed by a successful run into Archives. And all I need to do is to run HQ and then I can play Notoriety. Except that on the run, on my Deuce's Wild run, I saw that it was Architect protecting HQ. The expose showed me that Architect's protecting HQ. And there's nothing more annoying for a nanotech to break than a single lone Architect, because if I run HQ, nanotech's only at base strength 2. It would cost me 5 credits to break nanotech because I will need to pump it. And I don't have 5 credits. So I can't actually fire off the Notoriety unless I allow my opponent to get Architect firing off for free. That is a nightmare. That's an absolute nightmare. So yeah, this is an absolutely terrible situation to be in. I desperately needed the extra money, so I'm going to play Oracle May here, and depending on what I draw, I could potentially still make the HQ run, fork out the 5 credits, and then play the Notoriety to threaten match point, and hope that the card in the remote's not an agenda. So I'm going to fire off Oracle May here, naming event. Of course, it's the Cerberus Lady, the only non-event remaining in my deck. Great. Just great. My deck is 2/3 events, and instead 2 of my 3 Oracle May triggers hit programs. This is bullshit. Right? I have 2 clicks left and 4 credits. I can't do jack shit. So I'm just going to click for credits and pass the turn over to my opponent. At this point, even contemplating about same old thing into the remote is suicide, because if the Stim Hack Brain Damage hits my levy, that's game. I don't have any money left in this deck. As it turned out, it was game, as my opponent revealed that they have been drawing agendas non-stop all this while. Right, not much else to say about that game. I really should have ran the remote. That's a very rookie mistake, to completely avoid running the remote just because you see a bunch of surveyors stacked on it. Yeah, I'm just going to use the excuse that I suck at playing Shaper to dodge any more questions about this. But no, seriously, don't play like me. You can do much better than what I did. Deck-wise, I find that my take on COMET AYLA is a little questionable. Not many other COMET AYLA decks actually run Maker's Eye as the main R&D digging mechanism, and now I can see why. It is fairly expensive to repeatedly Maker's Eye into R&D. 2 credits might not sound like a lot, but it does add up a lot when you repeatedly play them again and again with no way to offset the play cost. I don't really like the other alternatives. Indexing is not very good against corps with 2 or more ice, as it requires 2 runs into R&D. Back then, before the Most Wanted List update, it might have been better due to the combo with Mad Dash, but now that Mad Dash is no longer a thing, indexing just doesn't seem that good anymore. Insight plus Top Hat is a really cheap way of seeing the cards on top of R&D. If there are no agendas on top, you don't run. However, my biggest issue with it is that it doesn't feed notoriety. It takes a lot of clicks to play, and it's a 2-card combo, which is not something that you always draw quickly in the game. Whereas Maker's Eye is something you can fire right from the get-go, as you saw I did on turn 1. The other glaring omission is having no exclusive parties. I swapped them out for legwork, 1 copy of legwork instead, along with process automations. I find that exclusive party might actually be necessary for money after all, because I found myself very pressed for money this game, alongside the fact that, Maker's Eye was sapping all my money. Yeah, I ended the game on not many credits, and that's not even having used a levy yet. You can only imagine, had I used a levy, I would be that much further behind in terms of credits. I still really personally like legwork in such an aggressive deck that makes surgical runs. So I really don't want to do exclusive party, but it might just be necessary. This deck isn't the richest. Alternatively, I might consider playing Day Job instead, which gives a huge chunk of cash. Finally, every Stim Hack is important. I can't stress how much it hurt when my first Stim Hack sniped my second. It really reduced my ability to contest the remote. You imagine I would still be able to fire a blind Stim Hack into one of those AYLA advanced cards in the remote, and that would have completely changed the course of the game. Without those Stim Hack credits, yeah, I just really, had found it very hard pressed to get into the remote. So yeah, Stim Hack is very important for contesting Ginger remotes. So that's COMET AYLA for you. It's a very simple deck. I really don't have much to say about it, unlike with most other videos where I ramble on and on. It's just, very solid fundamentals. A good money and draw engine with good icebreakers and solid multi-access that will get you to 7 points. If you peruse the other COMET AYLA list on Netrunner DB, you'll find that the various authors have their own takes on it and have included some other, utility, shaper, or neutral cards, swapping deck slots around. And these changes are actually pretty much in line with the theme of COMET AYLA being about, good fundamentals. All these cards are basically improving your efficiency one way or another, making your breakers cheaper to use, getting your breakers out more reliably, giving you more money, or making ice cheaper to break, or giving you more agenda points. It's all very fundamental stuff. No hard counters, no out-metaing the meta, no hate cards, just pure, solid, unredacted Netrunner at its core. Thanks for watching and happy net running. Have fun with COMET AYLA. I'll see you next time.